I made new friends. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I'm going to take you through some of the favourite new authors that I discovered when I was reading in 2021. These aren't all necessarily debut authors. In fact, some of them have already had quite a few books out since 2021 that I had only just discovered. But now knowing that they have an entire back catalogue that I can go back on, I am genuinely spoiled for choice with books of theirs. First one on the list is actually a debut author, and it's Rosie Dion. I read The Roommate in about February or March of last year, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It's about Clara and Josh, who move in together when Clara moves from New York right across to LA. She thinks that she's going to be moving in with a guy that she has been crushing on for decades, but it turns out that he's actually going on tour with his band and she's going to be living with Josh instead. Clara has had a very kind of sheltered upbringing. She's a little bit naive. She's very innocent when it comes to things in the bedroom. But Josh is in the adult entertainment industry and his experience is vastly different to hers. There are so many wonderful sex scenes in this book. It's really well written. It also highlights the kind of struggles that people who do work in the sex industry are going through on a daily basis. And when I finished this book, I knew instantly that I wanted to read more. So I went and picked up The Intimacy Experiment, which is the second book in this series and follows Naomi, who's one of the side characters in the first book. She's a co-worker of Josh's. They've been really good friends for years. And she sets up a kind of modern intimacy 101 class with Ethan, who is a new rabbi in a synagogue near where she lives. Also, this has a kind of a imbalance in sexual experience and sexual prowess, but this is also dealt with so well in this book. And also there is, as you can imagine, quite a lot of Jewish representation in there. Something that I hadn't personally read a lot of, but I really enjoyed. The next author that I fell in love with in 2021 for the first time is Lizzie Dent, who originally comes from New Zealand but at the moment is living in Austria. So that's kind of a connection for me, who also grew up in an English-speaking country and has moved to a German-speaking one. Lizzie is another debut author, and in April I read The Summer Job and utterly fell in love with it. It's set in the Scottish Highlands. It's got a little bit of a double life situation going on. It's got a lot of hijinks, and it was such a great escape when I genuinely could not leave my house at the time. I know that there is talk of a TV production happening at the moment for that series, and I would utterly love to see one of those. But I also know that Lizzie has got a new book coming out this June called The Setup. I don't know a whole lot about it because there hasn't been a whole lot of information given out yet, but I cannot wait to see how her next book goes. The next three coming up are all Irish authors, but two of them are debut authors, and we'll start with one that was Katherine Watt. This book features one of my favourite Irish social events, Irish weddings. They can last from anything to an hour to 3 days. And I genuinely love when everybody gets together and dolls themselves up and just has a really great time. I've never been to an Irish wedding that I didn't like. Katherine has got a second book coming out in February of this year. It's called The Rebound. Given how funny One Night Only was, given how heartfelt quite a lot of the scenes were, I am absolutely so excited to see this one, especially because I believe that this one is also set from somebody who moves back from a really big city to Ireland, has to reevaluate their whole life, kind of start over again. And that is something that I really love seeing in books, the kind of change from really down on my luck, not having a great time with life, to owning it and a massive glow up. I cannot wait to see how that one shows up. Next on the list was Adiva Jagadees, and I have only read one book of hers so far for the specific reason that I am keeping the next one for the same time. I read The Henna Wars as part of the Irish Readathon last year. It was the group book and everybody who took part in the Readathon was reading it. I don't know if it's going to be the group book for this year, but I am keeping Hanny and Ishu's Guide to Not Dating for that specific readathon. Even if it doesn't fit into one of the prompts, I'm just going to read it in March of this year. I absolutely love how Adiba shows how Bangladeshi culture and Irish culture can kind of mash together, kind of doesn't always work out, doesn't always sit in the same pool, but there are kind of small similarities, how people who have come to Ireland are integrating themselves, and little cultural differences that we wouldn't know about from having grown up here. I also loved that in the Henna Wars, one of my absolute favourite Dublin institutions is written in Gino's Gelato, which is one of my favourite ice cream shops in Ireland. And I loved even just imagining that I was sitting down having ice cream with the two girls. It was such a great read. Next on the list is another Irish author, but one of the big hitters, and she's definitely not a debut author, but I cannot believe that it took me 29 years to get to Maeve Binchy's books. I was completely blown away by Circle of Friends. It was probably one of the best books that I read last year. The social commentary on Ireland is just phenomenal, on social class, on differences of wealth, on how men see women, relationships, friendships, education, growing up. I absolutely ate this book whole. It is big, it's quite a chonker, but immediately, whenever I saw a Maeve Binchy book in a Kindle 99p deal, I just snapped it up. I have maybe about 4 or 5 of them already on my Kindle. And I think as well I'm going to try and fit another one in for the Irish Readathon, because that's when I read Circle of Friends. I've got Tara Road, Evening Class, Firefly Summer, and I think there's another one, but I can't remember what the title is. But I am so excited to read everything that Maeve Binchy has brought out. The next author on the list is Holly Jackson. I haven't read a YA thriller that I enjoyed so much as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder in such a long time. And I think that the main reason I enjoyed it so much is because the storytelling is so immersive. It's not just straight up prose. It's not just chapter, chapter, chapter. You get so much written into the book. You have transcriptions of interviews, you have podcast episodes, you have newspaper clippings. And I love seeing that in books. Cara Hunter, who writes quite a lot of adult thrillers, adult crime thrillers, she writes in a lot of those as well. And those are some of my favourite aspects to her books. So seeing that in a YA thriller just really hooked me into it. I've also read Good Girl, Bad Blood, and I really enjoyed that as well. I haven't yet gotten to As Good as Dead. I've heard a couple of fluctuating reviews and mixed reviews about it, but I am going to try and pick it up soon. Last on the list is another debut author, and that is Phoebe Lockhurst. She wrote The Lock-In, and it's a credit to you if you can write a book that is set pretty much only in one room, that is still gripping, that is still entertaining, that I am still wondering what is happening at the end of it. This book follows 2 flatmates and 2 of their visitors who are locked into the attic in their house share, and they discover throughout the course of their time there that 2 of them already know each other from their distant past, but can't quite place how they know each other. There's also a kind of whole, one of the housemates is live tweeting everything that's happening, which I genuinely think if you can live tweet, you can call the fire brigade. But I was so hooked on how this story would finish out, and I genuinely loved reading it. Those are some of the authors that I have absolutely loved discovering last year. Who are some of your new favourite authors that you read for the first time? Don't forget to like and subscribe, because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.